hours of the front.
The Land Rover Discovery can take you just about anywhere in the world. So do pay attention.
Your eye on the weather and traffic. Sky 6, only on Action News.
Action News continues with Rick Williams and Monica Malpass.
Good morning again. It is 6 o'clock now on this Tuesday, April 1st. On Action News this morning, the calendar reads April, but outside it looks more like January. Mother Nature buries the region under as much as 10 inches of snow.
The combination of snow and high winds has brought down power lines in a number of places, and at least we're not alone all over the Northeast. Folks are digging out from this springtime storm. Our intrepid weatherman, Dave Murphy's outside, and you've got all the scoop. What in the world happened, David?
Well, that low pressure system off the coast went by and dumped a heck of a lot of moisture in over to our north, and then it was scooped in from the west, and we wound up with a heck of a lot of snow out here. Right now, it's still kind of chilly. 34 degrees currently, says AccuWeather. Light snow officially still falling at the airport, although here on City Avenue it's now just down to flurries. Today's forecast, snow ending a little bit later on this morning. 45 degrees will be the high. We'll be checking the 5-day forecast in a little bit, at which time you won't believe how things are going to change in just about the next 24 hours. In the meantime, I can bend down here and tell you that this is wonderful packing snow. So, Rick, anytime you're ready, buddy.
Yeah, I use bullets, David, so be careful.
Really? Yeah, it's easy to say when you're inside there.
Yeah,
Well, we can come out and have a little fun out here. Maybe build a...
Yeah. We'll be right out. All right, sure.
Okay, please do.
Okay, thanks, David. We'll see you in a little bit. It is no April Fool's joke this morning. We are buried under a lot of snow at this hour. First now, let's take a look outside from Sky 6. We go to the Platte Bridge. There we are. It is a foggy, snowy scene, but traffic seeming to be moving okay on the Platte Bridge. But this is one place where you do want to be careful because bridges and off-ramps can become very slippery and very messy during this snowstorm. But right now we know of no problems here on the Platte Bridge or neighboring I-95. PennDOT, however, says the ride to work could be somewhat of a problem. It had been a busy night for PennDOT crews who thought they had seen the last of winter, but we were told salt trucks were loaded up. They hit the Schuylkill and I-95 and other expressways throughout the night. PennDOT says that up to 100 trucks are on the roads throughout the area, Upper Bucks County, one of the hardest hit areas. So do give yourself plenty of time when you head out because it is windy, as you can tell by the cameras, and certainly a slushy mess to be sure. Meantime, area utility crews were busy this morning. Damaged wires in the 400 block of East Gravers Lane brought a Pico Energy crew out to Chestnut Hill. This is a fatal fatality on I-95 this morning that we told you about throughout the morning. This was in Port Richmond. One person was killed when a car went out of control on the Bridge Street off-ramp and slammed into a tractor trailer. This is the only fatality we know of because of the wintry conditions outside. Now, area utility crews busy this morning. Damaged wires. This is the 400 block of East Gravers Lane. It brought a Pico Energy crew out to Chestnut Hill earlier today. Pico says about 9,000 customers in the Philadelphia area are without power, most of them in Chester County. The good news is more service is being restored with each passing hour. Now let's switch live to the action cam at Broad and Olney this morning. Many SEPTA riders have a long commute ahead of them. But as we heard from folks with SEPTA earlier this morning, no specific delays as far as the buses are concerned. They were able to get the snow cleared from the bus stations and some of the ice off the rail lines. So no particular problems to speak of as far as SEPTA is concerned. But again, you do want to give yourself extra time. And there is a phone number to call. It's 215-580-7800. SEPTA operators are standing by to help you out if you have any questions about your morning commute.
Well, parts of the western and northern suburbs of Philadelphia really got hammered by this spring storm. Denise James joins us live on the action cam again in Willow Grove with the very latest there. Good morning, Denise.
Good morning again. It is cold out here. The wind is picking up just a little bit. For a while, I thought maybe Mother Nature forgot and wasn't kicking that wind in. The roads out here again remain wet with a lot of slush on the side. Earlier, we saw one of the roads here being cleared by a plow outside of a school. We videotaped that. We should see that videotape any moment now. You can see the plow clearing the road in just a moment as cars are passing by in front of a school. We saw a school bus coming out. And as well, if you look around, it's just kind of pretty in some places. The snow landing on the trees and the branches and whatnot. There was even a jogger out this morning. And I also talked with a police officer about how things went overnight.
It's been cold, windy, and snowy. The roads are clear for the most part. And as long as people take their time and use caution, there should be no problem this morning.
Well, right now you're looking at some of the early morning risers clearing their car. One person is out there shoveling behind the car, another shoveling or getting I guess about 8 inches of snow off the top of the car. So going to work will take a little bit longer this morning because you can't just come out and jump in your car and go. We got spoiled over the last few days. If people plan ahead, plan to take a little extra time, they should be able to get to work and to school on time. That's the latest. I'm Denise James, live on the Action Cam, and I'm actually in Horsham now.
All right, thank you, Denise. In Chester County, icy roads have left more than 300 motorists stranded there. They're being cared for by the Red Cross at 2 firehouses in Cochranville and Parksburg. Now, the problem was evident earlier on northbound Route 202 near Boot Road in West Goshen. Icy roads caught some drivers off guard, resulting in a string of fender benders.
Very slippery, and the traffic's just jammed up on them, and there's some people's trying to run too fast and they spin out, and that causes because the ice, they don't realize the ice is froze up so fast on them.
And Dan Quaya talked to one woman whose car spun out on the overpass there.
Scary. I thought I was going to go off the road.
Tell me what you were thinking when you were going through that whole thing. Tell us all about it.
Go off and die.
Have you ever been through something like that yourself?
Actually, about 15 minutes ago.
Well, as you can imagine, emergency crews had their hands full dealing with all the accidents.
And another area that we are watching closely is Montgomery County along Route 202. Action News reporter David Henry is live on the Action Cam in King of Prussia with another update on the conditions from there. David.
Well, Rick, traffic volume is starting to pick up out here as we approach rush hour, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the rate at which people are traveling right now. As you can see behind me, this is Route 202. The cars going away from you are heading towards the Schuylkill Expressway, and the cars coming towards us are heading south on 202 or out to 422. And you can see the traffic is moving rather smoothly. The roadway is just wet right now. Now, the wind is picking up quite a bit, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because combined with the salt that's already on the highway, this wind will hopefully dry things out pretty soon. And by the time rush hour finally does get here, the roadways may be even a little bit drier than they are right now. Of course, the secondary and back roads are a different story. There are piles of slush on some of those roads in your neighborhoods right now and on some of the overpasses. The only icy spot I encountered on the way over here was on the Eagle Road Bridge in Wayne, where, as you can imagine, on the overpasses, you're going to have a little bit more icing. So just be a little bit cautious out there this morning. But so far, traffic moving smoothly and rush hour off to a pretty good start. I'm David Henry reporting live from King of Prussia. Monica?
All right, thank you again, David. Well, high winds have been a big part of the problem since the storm began yesterday, and it's going to continue. Take a look at the scene on Lincoln Drive after winds toppled a tree onto the road. The tree also brought down some power lines, closing Lincoln Drive in both directions for more than an hour. And a similar scene on Haynes Street in Germantown. The wind was just too much for this old tree. It came crashing down, closing that roadway as well, and the winds are going to continue to whip all day long. A wind advisory in effect.
Okay, 9 minutes after the hour. Let's go back outside to David Murphy for a check of the AccuWeather forecast for this Tuesday morning. And happy April Fool's Day, David.
Thank you very much, Rick. And it sure was a happy Fool's Day. Got up a little bit early today. Felt like a fool. I'm sure you did too. Anyway, it's pretty cold out here right now. And you talked about the wind, and the wind is still blowing around. Right now, we'll talk about the precipitation, though, with Action Radar. And here's the latest look, and you can see that the system continues to move off the coast. And we'll start this up. And the system that's controlling all of this moisture is a low-pressure system that's now moved up off New England. And you can see it's just sort of sucking all that stuff up with it, still kind of rolling off to the shore, and then it'll be moving on up to the north. And it looks like most of the area already coming out from under the heaviest precipitation here, just light flurries falling on City Avenue. And there you see the latest look and the breakdown with all of this precipitation falling in the form of light snow right now. You talked about the wind, and the National Weather Service still has that wind advisory in effect. They started this yesterday. They've now extended it through the rest of today for eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. All of New Jersey and Delaware included here, even parts of Maryland as well, with sustained winds between 25 and 35 miles per hour and gusts up to 50 miles per hour. And that means the possibility, the continued possibility of downed tree branches and power lines, and that's even exacerbated all the more by the heavy wet snow that's sitting on branches and sitting on power lines right now. In the meantime,
Now on the Weather Channel, your local forecast.
And this edition of WeatherScope is sponsored by the National Flood Insurance Program.
This is WeatherScope.
Well, more than a foot of snow, 2 feet or better in some places, is what people in the Northeast are waking up to this morning. A good Tuesday morning. I'm Cheryl Lemke. We have Weather Channel crews in strategic locations across the Northeast, and we're going to be tracking that storm and where it's headed. For the very latest, let's go to Mark Mancuso in the Forecast Center. Mark?
All right, thanks a lot, Cheryl. And it has been quite a snowstorm. Reports of 1 to 2 feet in eastern New York, reports of 1 to 2 feet of snow in southern New England. And of course, with snowfall like that, lots of problems. At this time of year, you tend to get those heavy, wet snows, which accumulate on tree limbs and power lines, and they do make for power outages and also making for disrupted travel by land and by air. Let's take a look at some of the snowfall amounts for you, and we'll start you off by showing you Jaffrey, New Hampshire with 27 inches. That is our leader so far in the snowfall amounts. There you can see 27 inches of snow there. Moving down to Worcester, Massachusetts, reports of anywhere from 20 to 22 inches of snow there. Even in Rhode Island, 17 inches at Situate. Providence had about 7 inches or so, while in Boston, we did have reports of about 12, 13 inches of snow, but 17, 18 inches of snow being reported at Newton in some of the suburbs there just to the west of Boston. As we take a look at the big map for you, we show you that we have seen widespread snows there in eastern New York. Broome in New York, they're coming in with 28 inches of snow. And as we told you there around Worcester, 22, and around Boston now about a foot. And down towards Providence, 7 to 17 inches of snow, and reports now of about 5-foot drifts in northwestern Rhode Island as the winds have been howling. Well, standing out in the storm has been Rick Griffin. Rick, it's still snowing pretty hard, it looks like, out there, but amazingly enough, with all this report of heavy snow, I see traffic moving behind you. What's going on?
Well, Mark, it is still snowing, probably not quite as heavy as it was last night, and it is a bit more comfortable to stand out here this morning because the winds are quite a bit lighter than they were during the nighttime hours when we had the gusts to about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Snowfall total in this area in Andover, we're looking at probably, obviously it's difficult to measure because of the drifting and the settling due to the wet snowfall, but I'd estimate in the range of 12 to 18 inches. But you're right, Mark. Looking at I-93, the road is snow covered. The traffic is very light, but whatever traffic we see out here is moving along at a steady pace. Some folks, like this truck going by here, are going about 50 miles an hour or so. There is a state of emergency in Massachusetts, so the governor is urging people to stay home. State workers staying home today, except for emergency personnel. Schools and businesses are closed. The airport remains closed because of heavy snow and difficulty of removing the snow from the runway. At one 93.
Well, unfortunately, we are having some audio problems there with Rick, and I think what he was telling us is that even though that the conditions are pretty bad out there and there's a state of emergency, the road crews have been clearing some of the highways because the snow has been a wet, slushy type of snow, really accumulating on the grassy surfaces, 1 to 2 feet, but on the pavement there, snow having a hard time piling on up because this time of year get that solar insulation. But quite a mess in the northeastern United States, that is for sure, with the snow and the wind. Let's take a look at the current weather map, and hopefully we can get you a report from Rick a little bit later on. And as we go back to the maps for you, we'll show you the scene. And there it is, big low pressure churning off the New England coast. And with that low pressure churning off the New England coast, some tightly packed isobars, signs of some strong winds. Winds are still gusting this morning up to 40, 50 miles an hour from the coast of Maine right down to New York City, where we do have a high wind warning in effect for today. As we take a look at the satellite radar composite, you can see how the precipitation is tapering off from northwest to southeast. So in western New England down through New Jersey there, conditions will really be improving greatly this morning. Looking at the radar now for you, you got a better look at the scenario there for you. And as we check that out, we'll see that the precipitation is really...
Take a look at this.